So I'm live on Instagram right now, but we'll try it on YouTube as well. So I'm essentially going to be going over just a quick mini guide. And then after, if you guys have questions, I'll go ahead and answer. So essentially, what I want to go over is if you're a business owner, how to actually build out a sales team that works. Because this is obviously my business. Majority of people that come to me, they have a good product, but they have no clue where to hire people, where to even start, and go from there. Okay. So I'm going to be giving you legit the full lesson on how to actually do this. And if you guys have questions, bring them in the chat and then we will go from there. So when you're hiring for your sales team, there are a couple things that you need in place. Okay. Overall, you need to have proper systems. And if you don't have proper systems, the best sales rep in the world is not going to flourish. Okay. So you got to understand these sales reps are sales guys. These guys are good at converting people that are a maybe to a yes. They're not a hero. So you got to have everything built out because majority of these sales reps, they're not operators. Okay. They don't know how to build a CRM. They're not going to do this stuff for you unless you actually pay them. Um, once in a lifetime, you'll find someone. That's essentially what I did. I realized that majority of the businesses that I worked with as a sales rep, they were just shit, and a lot of it had to do with just operational and systems that were lacking. So I came in and just figured out how to do it. YouTube, ChatGPT, and things like that. But majority of people and majority of sales reps are not going to do that. They're looking for quick cash. If they're not going to be hitting their goal in 30 days, probably even shorter than that, they're going to go ahead and find another position. Okay. And the reality is the sales industry is very, very small. Everyone knows each other. Everyone knows who the good reps are. Business owners know who their good reps are. And people are constantly poaching all day because while systems are indeed going to be the bottleneck in most businesses, talent is definitely a plus. Okay. So if these are good sales reps, you got to have proper systems or else they're going to leave. And what happens when sales reps leave is they're going to talk shit about you. It's just what's going to happen. And if you bring the best closer on planet Earth, if you put a Jeremy Miner type sales rep into a business that has no structure whatsoever, that guy is going to leave as soon as possible once he realizes it, which is probably going to be within a week. And what he's going to do is he may post it on social media. Or if he sees other reps posting, like, hey, this company just reached out to me, who else has worked there? They've claimed that they have good lead flow, yada, yada. He's going to say, oh, hell no, I was there. It didn't work. Even if you clean up your act, 2 months later, that's still going to haunt you. So you have a reputation as a business. And before you bring anyone else on, it is your duty to build proper systems. Okay. So today, let me show you how to actually build the entire foundation so that you can onboard your first sales rep and actually be relieved of taking sales calls 24/7. Okay. So let's get into it. Now, number one, what you want to have in 2026, you have to have lead flow. Okay. While I am not against having sales reps cold call in any sense, majority of sales reps are just not dogs. Okay. And like I said, there's plenty of options out there. They are going to find the offer that has the best lead flow. So before you even think about sales, obviously you have to have a good offer and things like that. This video is not for that. You have to have dialed in lead flow. Okay. So you need to be spending money on bringing in inbound leads. Okay. Before you hire a sales rep, I would say you need to have at least 5 qualified inbound leads coming in a day. Okay. So it's going to vary between the industries. In B2B, it could be anything from $5 a lead to $100 a lead, but you have to be spending money. And If you don't have the money, that's fine, but you probably should just be in the trenches and go out and close deals yourself. And that brings me to my second point, which is if you don't understand how to actually do this yourself, you're screwed. And in business, as a business owner, I've learned this the hard way, is outsourcing and delegation is great and it's what is going to help you scale. But if you don't understand the basics of it, you're going to screw up hiring and you could also get screwed over by someone overcharging you or something. Here's what I mean. If you don't understand sales, you're not going to understand how to actually train a rep and how to onboard them. It's the same thing with hiring a media buyer. If you don't know how to run ads, or even not run ads, but if you don't know what's going on with Facebook ads or Google or the platform whatsoever, and you go out and you just think that you're going to hire magically a media buyer and it's going to save you, it's not going to work that way. Okay. And what's going to happen ultimately is you can get screwed over because a media buyer could say, hey, I want to charge you X, Y, and Z per month. And you just being lazy and not learning the skill, you're going to probably just send over the money. Or if you're broke, you just don't have the money. So, first off, you always got to get an understanding of how it works first. Okay. So, lead flow. You need to have 5 inbound leads coming a day for you to even hire one sales rep. That could be $100, that could be $500. It just depends on the industry, but you have to have predictable lead flow. Okay, what does predictable lead flow look like? You have to have leads that are coming in every single day that are quality. What does quality look like? If you were selling, okay, let me back up. Quality looks like it pertains to your ICP. Now I get it. Not every single lead is going to be quality, but you should have about 70, I'd say 70 to 80% qualified leads that are coming through. So if 5 leads are coming through a day, at least 4 of them should be within your ICP. It should be the same industry that you're selling in. They should have the same bottlenecks that you're looking to solve. They should have the same wanted desire state that you guys bring to your customers. And lastly, they should be financially qualified. If you're selling a $5,000 item and the person only has $2,000, that's not a financially qualified person. Okay. So you need to have 5 leads a day. 4 out of those 5 leads need to at least be financially qualified and qualified within your ICP. Okay. Now, once you have a predictable lead flow, you need to build out a proper sales system. Every single thing that you do as a business owner, regardless, and it's crazy that I even have to say this out loud, but majority of people just wing it and think that, oh, every single thing that's setting the appointment, whether that's closing the deal, every single thing needs to be documented, and it needs to be documented down to a T so that even the biggest dumbass could understand it. A 5-year-old should be able to understand the premise of what goes on from the lead filling out the ad to the lead closing and getting onboarded. Okay. So, appointment setting scripts. You should have a full script. Every single thing that works should be written down. Everything that doesn't work should also be written down. Because a lot of times in business, what doesn't work is even more important than what does work, because the reps are going to completely avoid it in the future when you hire them. Okay. Second, closing scripts. You want to have how you actually close the deals. Same thing. Discovery, pitch, close, objection handling, all that stuff. What works and what doesn't. And a big thing too is you need sufficient call recordings for both setting appointments and closing appointments. Every single thing that you do needs to be recorded. So sales calls, they all need to have live recordings. You should have at least 5 to 10 setting call appointments and at least 5 sales call recording. Okay. So that's step number 1, stuff documented. Now, the big thing too is you need to have proper systems in your CRM. It doesn't need to be fancy. You don't need to be some tech guru. You can use Go High Level. You can use Close. You can use HubSpot. I typically use Go High Level. If you're doing a very, very heavy outbound B2B position, you can do Close because they have the auto dialer. But regardless, map out stages. Qualified leads, attempting to contact, that means you're trying to call them up. Booked appointment, no show appointment, unqualified lead, deal closed, deal lost. Just very, very simple pipeline stages that you can understand and keep everything organized. Okay. So far we have predictable lead flow. We have everything documented as far as sales process, a CRM that works, and then yeah, so that's essentially that. Now, when you're going to actually hire a sales rep, you need everything documented, not only the sales process, but you need documented how the leads come in. You need to show sales reps how leads come in because there needs to be continuity between what sales is saying and what marketing is saying. Because if there's a divide, the conversion is going to drop. Okay. If a prospect hops on to a call and the sales rep is saying completely different than what is on the ad, it's just going to have a lower conversion rate. So you need to show and document what ads are working and which leads are coming into which ads. Okay. So that's that. Then you need to understand and break down the entire offer and document that. Okay. So typically what I do is I have a Notion document, or I've seen people do it in WAP, or people do it in other like different food. What is it? Kajabi. I almost said Punjabi. Kajabi. Ultimately, you just basically want a course that documents every single thing that allows you to properly close deals from start to finish. Okay. So break down the ICP, what you guys sell, what the prices are, what are the bottlenecks you guys solve, what are the things that make the prospects buy, what are the things that the prospect makes, what are the things that makes the prospect hesitate. Okay. All that stuff, pricing structure, all that stuff should be put into this Notion or this course. Then you should already have documented the sales process, put that in there, everything from setting appointments, closing deals, objection handling, scripts, all that stuff. Then you put in the SOPs, okay? So you should record as a business owner when you're doing sales how you actually handle everything. So typically what I do is, you're confirming appointments ahead of time, you're doing follow-up work, all that basic stuff that you see works and what doesn't, it should be documented. Because like I said, if you, for example, want to build an SOP for getting people to show up and confirming appointments, if you notice that, oh, if I'm not confirming these appointments a day in advance and I'm just showing up to the call and no one's showing up, that doesn't work. Put that down in the SOP so a sales rep knows, okay, I should not just wait for the demo until I give the appointment a call. Or, hey, if I give these appointments a call a day before and confirm, the likelihood that they show up is going to be way higher. Put that all in the SOP so that when you do onboard a rep, they understand that. Okay, so build out SOPs, talk about what works in your follow-up process. If you have different things that work and some things that don't, talk about it. Put all that stuff in one document and keep it there. And if you see other things that work, make edits to it constantly. Okay, so you have everything built out. They understand. All right, as a business owner, All right, guys, I got a new mic. So, as a business owner, once you have predictable lead flow and you have your entire documentation built out, now you're good to go ahead and hire out sales reps. Okay. So, this is where things get fun. Now, you need to treat hiring just like a marketing funnel. You need to have everything built out so that you're only getting qualified leads. Same thing with marketing. You need to have an ICP. You need to understand the type of prospect that you're looking for. It's the same thing with hiring. You need to build out your ideal your how do I say it? You need to build out your ideal candidate profile, your ICP. Same thing, ideal client profile when you're generating leads, ideal candidate profile when you're hiring. And you got to be as strategic as you are with client acquisition. Okay. So, what does that look like? Number one, you have to state what type of sales rep are you looking for? Like, and get very, very granular as far as the gender that you're looking for, the age that you're looking for, the experience that you're looking for, what niches they've sold into, what deal size they've sold into. And the more specific that you get, the better quality candidates you're going to get. It's the same thing like you're generating leads. The more specific you get for your ICP or your ideal client, the better the leads you're going to get as you start to dial in your marketing. It's the same thing with your hiring funnel, okay? If you simply just say, I'm hiring any single sales rep, you're going to get people from India, okay? You're going to get people from Nigeria just filling out who barely speak English. So you have to dial in what type of person you want to work with, okay? So here is something that I want to explain that as a business owner, you can't look at anything into a vacuum. What do I mean by this? A lot of business owners like to focus on one characteristic when hiring. And while that's great, there certainly are characteristics that you would definitely think are more important. You need to look at the whole picture. What do I mean by this? A lot of business owners, they're only looking for the most experienced rep, when in reality, there's a conglomerate of things that actually make sense. Okay. So let me give you an example. If you are a B2B SaaS company, you need to figure out, okay, what type of person do I want to work with? Do I want to work with someone that's my age? Do I want to work with a guy that's older? Yada, yada. That's step number one, figure out the gender, yada, yada. From there, if you're selling B2B SaaS, your best bet is to look for other guys who have B2B SaaS experience. Because while experience alone is great, experience in the industry is going to go way further. Because someone with 30 years of insurance sales is probably, unless they're a complete dog and they're an outlier, they're probably not as good as a fit for your B2B SaaS company than a guy who has done even 5 years in B2B SaaS. Okay. So you got to get specific and you got to find people that have experience in your industry. And you can even get more granular. Look for guys who have B2B SaaS experience selling in the same type of software or the same type of deal size. If you're selling $10,000 a month services and you're trying to find the guy who is perfect for the role, the guy who sold packages of that size is going to be way better than the guy who's only sold B2B SaaS in smaller ranges. So you can get way more granular with this. And trust me, there's way more talent out there that are looking for good positions. You just have to be able to fulfill on that role. What that means, fulfilling on that role, it means you're actually providing leads. You know this is a good offer. The software is great, yada, yada. But we're way past that. Okay. So that's how you get there. So once you build out your ideal client profile, now you got to figure out, okay, which platform am I going to go find these leads? Here's what I wouldn't do. I would not hire a recruiter. Recruiters are expensive, or they're going to say, hey, I want to take 10% of this guy's revenue that he's closing for the first year. There's plenty of free ways that you can find sales reps. Okay. So here are the free ways. Number one is social media: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Okay. Just depends on where your type of ideal candidate profile is going to be. Okay. Typically, Facebook groups work great because they're groups that have, SaaS sales, high ticket sales, marketing agency sales, different types of sales positions are being advertised in Facebook groups. So you can start in Facebook groups, or if you want to make a post on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's cool, but I do know they charge. Facebook groups is typically where I go. Okay. Now, you need to build this post like you're writing copy. Same thing with generating leads. You need to be able to write the best copy. So you need to get very, very granular and be very, very specific as far as what you're looking for specifically. So here's how it works. You need to say, number one in the headline, who you guys are hiring. For example, I am hiring 2 B2B software, B2B SaaS setters for my company. Okay, who you're hiring. And then you say what the product is. This is a plumbing software. It does X, Y, and Z. Okay, so headline, who you're hiring for. Next is what you're selling. Then you give price ranges. My software ranges anything from $5,000 to $2,500 a month. Okay, then you want to give expectations. So we are looking for, and you want to say who you're looking for specifically, and you need to break down the KPIs and the role of that position in great detail. You can't just say, I'm looking for an appointment center. You're going to say, hey, when you come into my company, you're expected to do 200 dials a day, and you're expected to at least book 10 appointments every single day, 10 qualified appointments every single day. And then you're going to give the OTE, which is on track earnings. You're going to say, you're going to get 5% as an appointment setter, or you could say, hey, we're hiring for salary, yada, yada. In this case, is say, hey, for an appointment setter, you're getting 5%. So on track earnings, it means what's their potential. You could make, let's say, $4,000 to $5,000 per month with this position. Okay. So from here, you built out the headline, what you're selling, what the price ranges are, what the role entails in detail, and then the on-track earnings. From there, you want to make a call to action. Okay. You want to say, and here's where people mess up. Majority of people say, message me if you're interested. And you're just going to get a bunch of people saying, interested, interested, interested. And while that works, that is kind of like, you're just going to be doing a lot of work on your own. And you're going to be saying, okay, and you're going to be starting text conversations. In reality, you want to build a Google form and make it very, very specific. So you're going to have them put their name, email, phone number, how many years in the sales. You could ask them a couple other questions like where they're from. And typically what I do is on the bottom, I say, hey, upload a Loom video. Here's where it gets tricky, okay? If you want to find people that are actually paying attention and are actually going to do a stand-up job, you're going to give very, very specific instructions. Hey, on this, you're going to upload a Loom video. It has to be between 2 to 3 minutes. You're going to explain what your background is as a person, what your background is in sales, why you feel like you'd be a good fit for this position. And lastly, somewhere in between the video, you need to say, and then give them some weird thing. I always say, hey, you have to say the word banana. And if you're getting a ton of people filling out this form and someone hasn't said banana in there, cut them because they're not paying attention. And the thing is that this isn't my genius. I didn't come up with this. I actually saw some guy on Instagram post this, but it seems like it works. And I've done it many, many times. And it's true. The people who don't put banana in the videos are clearly not paying attention. So that's how you build out the form. And lastly, another thing is you want to put on the post who this is not for. Okay, so it's like, hey, we're only hiring people that are American. We're only hiring UK or US appointment setters. Um, or hey, if this is going to be a part-time gig, we're not going to be hiring. And if this is something that you want to do for a month, this is not what we're going to be hiring for. We're looking for someone to grow in this role. Okay, so most importantly, always say who this is not for. Okay, so that is that. And then lastly, in the Facebook post, I say this. I say, you are to fill out this form. Anyone whose comments interested or message because you clearly can't follow instructions. Okay, so that is essentially how it works. That's the funnel. Okay, let me give you guys a break. You guys got a bunch of questions on Instagram. I'm going to answer them all after the video. I don't know why. Dude, I don't know if I'm shadow banned on here. I have no viewers on YouTube. But anyways, I have viewers on Instagram. This is fine. Okay, so from here, you've done all your documentation. You've built out your hiring funnel. What you want to do from there is you're going to start to get people reaching out. Okay. Now, we do two types of interviews. Step one is going to be a group interview. Okay. Once you get, I would say wait 2 days, maybe 24 to 48 hours, just depending on how soon you need to hire people. And then after 48 hours, if you have at least 5 people that filled out the ad, if you did this properly, you should have like 15. I always get like 20 people reaching out. But take the group, first of all, sift through the applications. If they didn't put banana or the video's not between 2 minutes, 3 minutes, cut them. If they're not, they just don't look like they would be a good fit, whether they said they have no experience or they have, they want to do this part-time, yada, yada. Pick the people that you feel like is a fit, and then you're going to send them over to a group interview. Okay. The group interview should be minimum of 5 people. So you should have 5 people in there minimum. Maximum, I would say probably a little less than 15. So 5 to 15. 15 is the maximum. It just gets too hectic after that. But that's I'd say 5 to 10 is a good range. After 10, it gets a little too much. But 15, no more than that. Okay. You're going to set them up on an interview. Now, the group interview is where you're essentially going to weed out and really just figure out who maybe the top, if you're interviewing 3 people, you should really only pick 2 people. If you're interviewing 10 people, maybe you only pick 4. So you really should only pick the top 10% of people that you feel like perform the best in these group interviews. Now, group interview is simple. You are going to go about this in a random fashion. You're not going to call on people. You're not going to go in a line. You're not going to have people prepare statements that are already recorded. You're just going to wing it. And first off, you're going to explain, okay, hey guys, thanks for hopping on. A little bit more about our company. Don't gas it. Maybe talk about the role for a little bit. Talk about the role for 2 minutes. Talk about who you're hiring for, what you guys do as a company, a little background on yourself as the business owner or the hiring manager. And from there, you get into it. You're going to say, hey, we're going to do some introductions. I'm not going to call anyone. First come, first go. You're going to tell me your name, your age, and then you're going to give me a background as far as where you're from. You're going to give me a background on sales, and then why you feel like you would be a good fit for this. And do it within 45 seconds, okay? You're just going to sit there. And you're going to watch people go ahead. A lot of times, the guy who goes first is typically what I've noticed. Not every time, but I'd say over 80% of the time, the 2 guys that go the first are typically the guys that are the best performing because they're just go-getters. So the guys that go first, listen to them. But the thing is you can't be just glazing the first two guys that go. You obviously have to have an open mind. If the first two guys that go are shit, it's like, okay. But this is just in my experience, the first two guys that go in a round robin interview are typically the guys that take initiative. So these guys, they're going to go ahead. After they give their intro, you're going to say, okay, cool. So, and you're going to do rapid fire questions about sales. You can do tell me a time where you learned the most in sales, or tell me a time where you grew the most as a sales rep. More lighthearted things like this, people will give you BS answers, but you kind of want to hear, who's really a bullshitter, who's not. And then from there, you're going to get into more tactical sales. So you're going to say, okay, cool. Typically, what I do is I just start calling out people. So you're not going to ask these same questions for everyone because people are just going to copy. You're going to say, okay, let's see, John. Let's say you are going to set an appointment and I say, call me back later. How would you handle that? They're going to go ahead. Okay, boom. And then next one. You're going to ask different. You're not going to ask everyone the same thing. You're going to ask different ones for each. And then from there, you're going to say, okay, cool. So what we're going to do, if you're hiring for a setter position, you're going to say, let's do a role play. And you're going to do a role play. You're going to call on people individually. Like I said, you're not going to call on the same person every single time. You're going to change it up. You're going to say, cool, let's role play that you're going to set me in for an appointment. Ready? Ring, ring. Mike, you go. You and Mike are going to do a role play. Don't go too hard on them. You don't want to embarrass people, but you want to, give them a little pushback, see how they perform. After Mike, do John, do Joe, continue that. Okay. From there, once they give you the introduction, they told you about, a little bullshit sales story. They handled objections. They gave you their little sales rundown, their pitch. You can ask them more specific questions like, okay, guys, here's a good one. What do you guys typically do to prepare yourself for a long day of work? And you're going to watch for those answers. Typically, the guys that are good, they're going to say, well, what I do is, I have a structured day, yada, yada. I role play, yada, yada, all this stuff. Some people are going to give weird answers, but that's how you go. And then from there, you want to go ahead and you can ask others like, hey, what are some hobbies you guys do outside of business? And in reality, all you're simply doing is you're just trying to filter out like who are the weirdos, because in reality, you don't want to hire people that you don't want to work with. That's just the cold hard truth. If a guy's talking about something you don't really give a fuck about and he's just okay, it's like, I really wouldn't hire him. I'm not that cool with him. He's just okay. It's like, that's why you ask these questions. Okay. So that's it. Obviously, what you want to do is you want to record the Zoom meeting. You want to go over and write down every single thing that they said. Have a notebook. After that, you're going to say, okay, great. So does anyone have any questions for me? People are going to ask some questions. You can also see how a rep is by the quality of his questions. If he says, can you tell me a little bit more about what you guys do as a company? It's like, dude, I already just went over that. Like, don't be retarded. Or if he says, like, hey, man, like, are you guys hiring for closers? It's like, dude, this is for setters. Like, why the fuck would you hop on? So you can always see what type of person they are by the quality of their questions. So that's going to be a big thing. Do some Q&A, 5, 15 minutes of Q&A. And then from there, just explain, hey, by the way, by the end of the day, I'm going to be tallying everything up. I'm going to be reaching out to you guys and just be nice about it. If you don't feel like they're a good fit, shoot them over a text and say, hey, man, I went in another direction. I'll keep you updated for more. If they are a good fit, what you're going to do is like I said, choose the top 10% of people and you're going to hop on a one-on-one interview with them. Okay. On the one-on-one interview, you're going to get into more tactical things and more personal. So you're going to talk to them. Hey, man, what are you looking for specifically for a role? And this is going to be a good question because you're going to see really what they're looking for specifically. You're going to see what their intentions are. And then you're going to say, okay, cool. Well, can you handle doing this many outbound dials? Okay, cool. Um, and then you can ask them more specific questions about like, hey, like what do you do outside of work, things like that. Because a lot of guys, they're very, very caught up in different things. So they may not be able to do as much work as the other guys. Okay. So do a one-on-one interview. And from there, just depending on how many people you are hiring, you're going to hire the best guy out of the one-on-one interviews. Okay. And then from there, once they're interviewed, you bring them on the onboarding process. Onboarding process, very, very simple. You want to be going over everything. Like I said, you should already have majority of it documented, but onboarding should be simple. You shouldn't overbear with them. But if you watch my sales videos, you should understand that it's a 3-day onboarding process. Day one is going over the offer. It's going over the pain points, going over the price points, everything like that. So they don't have any questions when prospects hit them with them. Day two is going over the actual sales framework, appointment setting frameworks, closing frameworks, objection handling, SOPs. And then lastly, watching call recordings and then CRM and tech. And then day three, they hit the ground running and they're taking sales calls. Okay. So that's essentially it. And guys, I have videos that are getting posted this week. I've gone over a lot of information over the past 37 minutes. So there's going to be more and more, but let's go ahead and answer some questions on Instagram. Let's see. Okay, let's see some questions. Does this work for every? Yeah, guys. So let me turn on the light. Okay, let me repeat the question. So the earlier question was, does this work for every industry? Yes, this is an evergreen process. Now, I only work with B2B companies, but this works for B2C as well. Okay, so this will work. Follow it and it's going to work. Okay, let's see what's next. What type of companies do you work with the most? Okay, this guy asked, what type of companies do you work with the most? So, like I said, it's B2B. For majority of the companies that I work with, it's B2B SaaS. Okay, the reason why is my end goal is to build out a portfolio of companies that I have equity in and that I'm building towards an exit. SaaS is going to have the highest multiple. Marketing agencies are great, but there's not as a high of a lever to sell them. I do a lot of consulting though with B2B marketing companies and consulting companies. So good question. Let's see. What other questions do you guys have? Let's see. Where should I start? Okay, good question. So, Jeremy, you asked, where should I start in my sales journey? That is a good question. So, Jeremy, what you need to do is you need to build skills. So, while the people online that are pushing you to start your own sales agency and become a growth operator, majority of those people don't know jack shit and they're trying to sell you a course. Okay. So, Jeremy, to build a business, you need to have hard skills. So, you asked a great question, and I think you're going to crush it because you're already asking where I should start in sales. And sales is the best vehicle to do so. So, you got to start as an appointment setter. So, where I would start if I were you is find a good company to work with, a company that has a great offer, they have good lead flow, and that you can put in enough effort. There's various industries. It just depends on what you're looking for specifically. Like I said, I work with a lot of B2B companies. Okay. So those are marketing companies, consulting companies, those are agencies. The reason I like B2B sales is because the people are typically a little bit more intelligent. Also, you can charge higher prices, which means as a sales rep and as a business owner, you're making more money. But there's a bunch of good B2C offers. There's, you can sell coaching, you can sell info, you can sell life insurance. Reality, you just got to figure out what you're looking for specifically, the type of people that you want to work with, and find a good company that has that. But start off as an appointment setter, grind, do 300 dials a day, understand buyer psychology, move into a closing position. And then once you understand how to actually close deals, go ahead and figure out the other skills, figure out how to market, figure out how to build teams and things like that. And that's when you can actually build a business. So good question, Jeremy. Let's see. Marcus. Yes, it works with B2C. Good question. Jack asks, how do I know if a company has a good offer? Well, that's a good question as well. Damn, you guys are asking good questions. So you should see if they have testimonials, if they have good client results, they have a good offer. If they have good lead flow, then they have a good offer. So if you guys have any questions, bring it to me in the DMs. I can kind of see what other questions. How do you train guys that are super? Okay. So Nick asks, how do I train sales reps that, what does that say? Oh, he's down there. He said, how do I train new sales reps? Okay, Nick, I'm not sure if you're drunk or not, but it's a good question, but it's just the way you texted that was crazy. So, how do you train new sales reps? So, I prefer to train new sales reps versus hiring a guy that has more experience but has shitty experience because it's hard to train an old dog new tricks. So, the first thing is just like a business owner, you have to have everything systematized and you got to build a foundation. You can't overwhelm these new reps. So I have a video talking about this, and you can go ahead and watch it on my YouTube channel. It's called "If You're New to Sales, Watch This." Basically, you need to write down, and I'm sure if you're asking this question, you already have sales experience. You need to write down a list of the different sales skills that are required to move the needle in calls and see which one the foundation. Okay, so number one is going to be lowering sales resistance. If they don't lower sales resistance, people are just going to call and hang up the phone. Okay. Number two is probing, finding pain, and asking good discovery questions. Okay. If you don't build the gap between where they are right now to where they want to be so wide, your pitch is going to fall flat. Okay. So number two is going to be actually building discovery. Number three is going to be building a pitch. So you got to give a proper pitch. It's not going to be anything generic where it's like, hey, we as a company do X, Y, and Z. It's like, hey, Mark, you mentioned you have X, Y, and Z problem earlier. Our